Good afternoon, everyone. Welcome to the Other Israel Film Festival. My name is Isaac Zablocki. I'm the director of the Other Israel Film Festival and excited to be having this conversation today for Nafas, the Israeli TV series. It's very interesting to have this all in the hybrid format. We showed the first 3 episodes of the series last night here at the JCC in our brand new theater. And of course, they're available virtually as well, as are many other programs. Coming up today, we have our short film series, which is going to be live at the JCC and available virtually starting at 2 p.m. And then at 4:30, we have The Skies Above Hebron. And tonight at 7:30, we have the feature film Ahed's Knee by Nadav Lapid. All of these are followed by conversation. In this virtual world, we're also, for the guests who could not be here in person, we're figuring out the times to have those conversations. And one of the challenges is that Israel is changing their clocks. Tomorrow night, we're changing our clocks. And it's a miracle that we're actually all here together. So we're really excited to have this conversation for Nafas. Israeli TV is, of course, really one of the hottest exports out of Israel today. And we were excited to be a part of this series that's directed by and conceived by Maysaloun Hamoud. Maysaloun has been a member of the festival family since the very beginning and has come to us with her short films. And then, of course, was opening night with her feature film In Between, which if you haven't seen, it's available widely, and check out In Between as soon as you can, as soon as the festival's over. And we would be nothing without our partners, and we have many partners on the festival. Please check out our full partner page. But specifically for this film, I want to highlight the Abraham Fund initiatives, as well as the Interagency Task Force on Arab-Israeli Issues. And we're really proud to have here to lead the conversation, Erica Shaps, who is the Program and Resources Manager at the Interagency Task Force. She will be starting off the conversation with Maysaloun, who we're happy to have back here, and almost as good as in person. And then, of course, we'll open it to questions from the audience. If you have questions, please put them in the chat, and then we'll contact you. And if your question is selected, we'll open your mic and you could ask that live and be a part of the conversation too. I want to start by saying, just as I hand things over, that Nafas really, I think, like a lot of Maysaloun's work, has an amazing style and just manages to capture a specific scene within Israeli-Palestinian life, and really gives such a voice and so much color to a topic that it's so fresh and so great to have, that we were excited to present this series. Erica, I hand things over to you.
Thank you very much, Isaac. As Isaac mentioned, my name is Erica, and I'm the program manager at the Interagency Task Force on Israeli Arab Issues. We're an educational resource for North American Jewish communities to help support people in learning about Arab citizens of Israel and Jewish-Arab relations within Israel. And it's always so wonderful to be able to partner with the Other Israel Film Festival each year and get to have amazing conversations like we're about to have with Maysaloun today. So I just will jump into questions. We don't have that much time together. The first question I wanted to ask Maysaloun is both in Nafas and also in Between. You show us a really specific slice of life for Palestinian citizens of Israel, looking at young people in Tel Aviv, urban and progressive, navigating secular religious environments. Why is this a story that you feel so compelled to share through cinema and TV?
I will start with thank you, of course, for the Other Israeli Film Festival. And I have the honor really to be like part of this in my work, and I'm really grateful that this like way, since I was student I made it also with the other Israeli. About your question, I think we usually see one type of characters, Palestinian characters, representing all over. Of course, at the Israeli cinema, in the American representation, it's like very, very small, I think, stereotype of characters that usually we see. And as one of this generation that already more than 10 years are alive and making things and like a part of processes that is going on here and in the art field and the activist scene. I think we can be representing proudly without feeling that something wrong if we are telling stories that not just about, you know, the direct talking of occupation or stuff that show us as a victims, or that, you know, kind of stories that we usually meet. So as a woman that, of course, we didn't hear the stories or about women at like all over the world yet, and I have the chance to tell stories. This is my, I think, aim in this world. So I always, it's not something that I choose. I have been chosen for this, like different stories, different way of telling that stories. And I'm so grateful also for that chance that I got.
The show is, you talked about sort of talking about this generation and the role you have here. The show opens with, you know, we're going back to 2008, which, like, I realize is longer ago than I always feel like it is. And so much of the show felt so fresh and relevant today, even as someone who lived and, you know, right between Florentine and Jaffa myself just a year ago.
The basic difference is that is the phones.
The phones, exactly. That's like the main difference you feel. So I'm curious why you set the story in 2008 and what relevance you feel it has for the lives of people in these communities today.
Yeah. If we can talk about in between for a minute, at the timeline, actually, it happened. It happens when the scene is already like exist, and the underground is already going on, and but at the time that we are talking for this specific story, that the seeds of the underground just started, and
you say more about when you say underground. What underground are you referring to?
Palestinian underground I'm talking about, which the scene that I am part of, that I can talk about the stories from that point of view. And this scene meets the genre of criminal comedy action. So for that, I think creation specifically, I thought that we need to start at that point that everything didn't really happen yet. It just started, the seeds of it. Because of that, they all the season they try to find out how they can make event with Palestinian and Israeli underground festival, rave, and all that, because it didn't happen yet at that time. And then they will, like, I don't want to make a spoiler for people that didn't watch it yet, but this is the point. Like, they didn't have that scene yet. They are individuals. This is exactly how it happened. Like, I was there at that time, exactly, at 2008. We are like the how I can, the teenagers of 2000, October 2000, which I don't know if it's a context of October 2000.
Maybe
Say
a
something.
sentence or two.
Yeah, it's the beginning of the second Intifada, and the forces, the Israeli forces, killed 13 Palestinian Israeli citizens through the demonstrations that have been there at that time, after Sharon gets the Aqsa and all that craziness. And this made, like, first time for our generation, something that may make you feel more and more Palestinian, and start to define yourself Palestinian Israeli. And before that, it was like Arab Israelis, and after that, it started to be. So we were that generation that grow, like, the 10 years between 2000 and 2010 and 11, which started the beginning of the Arab Spring. This is my generation, and this is all the scenes, all the Arab world underground scenes started at that gap of 10 years. So the psychedelic scene, the art alternative scene, the starting more and more, of course, as a Palestinians here, to study that topics of art that before that years, it wasn't like that we see now. So it's all like a wave from that timeline that started. And so also the war, which the part of the story is the war that closed the borders, that then there is the how we say it, the yovish, the like lack of weed, make it like in the political and the individual meets, and this is the important timeline to start with. It's backward than in between. It's before the scene is started. That, so yeah.
I'll say one thing I really appreciated that you just mentioned now watching is how it's not void of politics. Like, it's not like a fantasy world in which there is no political reality, but also the political reality isn't the focus of the show. Like, it's not about a war, it's not about relations specifically, but you see through real people's experience the ways in which you might expect this to manifest, and also ways, like you said, like lack of access to drugs that, like, you wouldn't think about as a byproduct of it's very much part of people's experiences.
Yeah, exactly. This is the DNA of the show, is is that like all the political setup is there, but we feel and live with them from that small issues as young people, as all over the world, young people. So yeah.
I'll say I have a few more questions I want to ask, but people should feel free to start writing them in the chat, since we'll transition in a few minutes to open audience Q&A. A specific question that came up for me as someone who's working very much on educating on issues relating to Jewish-Arab relations in Israel and Palestinian communities in Israel, is that you presented a lot about sort of the emerging crime families and about this culture of crime and drugs and violence that's occurring, not national violence that people often think about in the United States, but within Palestinian communities. And this, for people who may or may not know, depending on how often you flip open an Israeli newspaper, is really very much in the news today, that there's an unprecedented wave of crime and violence and challenges with personal security within Palestinian communities in Israel. That I think really is often not understood outside of that context. So I was wondering if you think your show sort of sheds any light on the moment we're in related to crime today.
I have to admit that when I started to work on the show, like this topic, it wasn't like the hottest topic as now, but the same conditions was there always since 48, and lack of money and budgets and like the backyard of the Israeli society, as all over the world, where is no opportunity and opportunities and hope for people. Crime is grow up, and it's like basic thing, as a humanity, I can say. And here, as a second class citizens, we see that all over the years. And in one point, when they like stopped the organization, Jewish mafia organization in the Israeli streets, there's no vacuum, of course, anytime. So it moved to the Arab society in Israel, and they worked together, and so it was like easy for the policy of the government to say, yeah, they can kill themselves, it's not really, Palestinians' blood not really matters, okay? And suddenly, when it started to be like frightening after the war at May, when things get crazy at the streets between the young people, both, it started to be an issue that up frightening from that, because there is a lot of weapon. So in one time, this weapon can be, of course, like toward the Jews, and this is what changed the game now, that they started to try to think how. But also, when the government's policy and all that, when they coming to try to solve that, I think hot issue, they goes to change laws, to try how to use fascist tools to control the situation, not with the usual and common laws and tools that they already used for finish it in the Israeli streets. Like Shabak can be inside the Palestinian Israeli. Like we all know that the Shabak there always, but in our faces, like it's okay. And then to change that the police can come without a judge agreement to search, and they can anywhere they can come and do anything they want. This is not a democracy at all. If we want to finish like a problem with tools that make it more problems after, I think it's not the way that it has to be.
So I think some of what I'm hearing from a lot that you shared, and really an experience and perspective that I think is held by many people, is, that this sort of underground, that you talked about, and the sort of crime existed for a long time outside of the news. The show was in 2008, and this was there. And now,
but for me, the crimes like mafia in the show, it's exactly like a genre that I grew up as a pop, Snatch and Guy Ritchie and Tarantino and all that pop, cinema as a classical that I wanted to come and to meet, like to put them together, the underground Palestinian scene with that genre, classical one. I didn't mean to take it for the realistic talking for the crime scene now in the Arab society. It's just the timing
just hit right when this was in the news.
Yeah.
As a watcher, that connection felt so obvious, but of course you as an artist have been producing and making and working on this for long before it ended up on the air.
4 years.
Right. And that this has been relevant inside communities for a long time, but only more recently, sort of had this public frontal in the media face. And I think, one thing that I learned about too is just COVID-19 creating more unemployment, less opportunities for youth, people needing loans, needing access to financial capital to stay afloat during the crisis, and not having access to some of that capital just grew this sort of black market. And as you mentioned, it's been there the whole time, it's grown. And then people noticed it more in May when it sort of shaped and influenced Jewish-Arab relations in a new way, has just created this moment that's this very unique backdrop for your show to have come out in. And bringing these conversations publicly in a different kind of way. I'll ask you one more question, and then I think we'll open it to the audience, so people, feel free, please, to be putting things in the chat. Is this underground community that you talk about and you show so beautifully, these young Palestinian citizens of Israel with big ideas, with visions for their future, living in urban areas, sort of trying to shift and define their own life. Like, what do you think is the underground like today? What is this community, this sort of cultural output? What does it look like now?
I think as more than 10 years already that this exists, and it of course like young people that grow up now, and they are like they feel themselves out of the mainstream. They already have a world that's waiting for them, and they can just go and be part of. They don't have to be, as we have been, like lost out there, feeling like weirdos and not fit in the right path of the society. And this is like so important that there is existing a life, for alternative life for young people that that they want to live their life free out from conservative rules, and they want just to be different, and this is important. But I can say for the seeds as one of those of this scene. I think the sad thing about it that we are now more and more less naive, and I can say also that lots of people are out, like abroad. I think like my generation, the oldest, people from that alternative scene feel like a lot of disappointing, a lot of like something that we thought we can change, like the reality is getting like worse here more and more. So it made people think about like try to start over in Berlin, like the Israelis and the Palestinians. they're basically a lot, like almost like half of the scene from here already at Berlin.
So you have your generation was sort of the pioneers, which
Yeah.
sort of made things a little easier for future generations. But on the other hand, you said like they're less naive, their eyes are open, and they're getting out. At least a good portion of them are. So I think I'm looking at the clock. I'm gonna hand it over to Isaac if we want to take a couple of questions from the audience.
Thank you. Thank you so much. We're going to start with a question from Lorraine. Lorraine, you're on the air.
Thank you so much for your engaging 3 segments that we've seen. And I assume the larger piece, I would say the same too. I wanted to ask how the show has been received among the various communities in Israel who would have been watching it.
Like, and from like different from my expectation after the fire that I had after in between, it was something more like compassion, and because I think inside there is a lot of humor, and it's based on a comedy basically. People, I think, saw it in different eyes, and it make it less problematic, and like a lot of positive comments and feedbacks, which was very nice.
Maysaloun, I wanted to ask, it's not completely a given, I'd say, unfortunately, that, I mean, this is a show that's pretty much, I don't know if you know the percentage, but like 95% in Arabic on a mainstream Israeli Jewish channel. Is that, was that at all a debate for a network? Were they saying to you, no, make this all in Hebrew? You know?
I have to say that hot cables were really like I can say with a lot of courage. That's the word. A lot of courage to do that action among the environment that we know, and from the beginning they already knows that it will be in like basically in Arabic, but there is like 80% 20 in Hebrew, and it was for them, I think, kind of like a test case. But I have to say also that from the reality and the Palestinian audience doesn't have cables here. We have satellites as the Arab world. So for the Israel, it was so initiative show for hot. It's not a pop thing that they usually do for the common base Israeli mainstream, of course. So I think the timing and the environment and that lack of Palestinian audience for hot didn't give the show I think the life that she it can be if it in different pilot, I have to say. Like if it was at a ta'gid, like for open for everybody, it was
The public channel.
sure. Yeah, it was for sure different. Yeah, unfortunately, I have to say. But you know, we make our choices. We could go with the ta'gid before, but it wasn't the ta'gid as it now. So, yeah.
And one last question before we leave. What does Nafas actually mean, and why did you choose that title?
Okay, Nafas has a few meanings. First of all, Nafas is the breath that we breathe. Nafas. And the breath that those young people need for themselves out of the society laws and all that. Second, Nafas is also a nickname for a joint. Nafas is really like a slang, Israeli slang, but it comes from Arabic, but Arabs doesn't use that a lot, but Israeli is. And the third one is the nafs, which is the soul. So all of that at the same word give us like a complexity of what's going on in this generation. They need breathe, they need something to smoke, and they need how I say to live by themselves, like from the soul, I have to say. Yeah, something like that.
Maysaloun, thank you so much for sharing this with us, and we hope to be able to share the rest of the episodes with our community. Erica from the Interagency Task Force, thank you so much for leading this conversation, and thank you all for joining us and being a part. We have many more conversations coming up this week and many more screenings. Join us live, and of course, many of the films are available virtual as well. And please tell your friends. We hope to see you at the movies soon. Have a good afternoon, everyone, and thank you.
Thank you very much, and have a good day there in New York.